Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper. And guys, forgive me. I always forget to take that thing off half the time. Guys, welcome to the Hard Truth Show. And this is another edition. I think we are on number 43, I believe is tonight. So let me put the screen back up for a second, make sure I don't lie to you. Yes, stream number 43. And we're going to be talking about discussing multiple different scientific proofs that the Most High exists. I kind of tailored this particular stream to the atheist people that's out there and people that's kind of on the fence whether they should actually pick the book up and believe. I want to apologize to everybody for last week being completely just trashed. I've not felt well lately, guys. I've been under a ton of stress. Shout out to everybody. Shalom. Love y'all. Got some people in the building from all over. Just long and short of it, I currently now manage a tiny house factory that's got about 40 guys in it, and I'm the main man in charge. So I have to produce 5 homes a day now. And it is very taxing at the end of the day. By the time I get in, I just want to absolutely just pass out. So I'm learning to adapt to this new lifestyle because I used to just run my own business and work for myself. And now I'm back in the workforce with a lot of other people. So it's an adjustment. But guys, this stream tonight, I hope it is a help to everybody. I hope it's a refresher for many of us so that we can actually reach out to people. Hey, we got people in the building from United Kingdom. Hey, there you go. Shalom. Shout out to everybody. Love y'all. Now, tonight, I have picked out some highlights. I will call this my highlight reel of scientific proofs for the kingdom and for the existence of the Most High. There is so much proof out there, and there's about to be a ton dropped in people's lap with the final events and things that are going to take place here in the very near future. But with that said, guys, real quickly, I just wanted to say a few things here is that number one, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so at seventrumpetsprepper@gmail.com. You can also please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That will help get this in front of other people. And if you'd like to help support the channel financially, you can do so via the donation link below. And also, if you want to make sure that I see your comment during these streams live, you can also hit me up on PayPal, the PayPal link below, and I will definitely get that comment during the stream. All right. So I think the last thing I will say, and then we will do shout out to our channel affiliates later in the video, is guys, make sure to go over and check out Odyssey. Link is in the video description below. All my content that YouTube hits me with a copyright strike or I'm sorry, a community guidelines violation. I call those my Hall of Fame videos. So they're all visible and viewable over on Odyssey. If you want to go over there and check that out, the content that YouTube has deleted over here. And also just a refresher, if you didn't see the last stream, I thought it was a really good stream. I think a lot of people enjoyed that. Why people are fleeing the modern churches of Babylon. You can check that out on the playlist. And also why utopia is impossible in the world today until the return of Messiah. I thought those were some really good streams, and I think tonight's stream is going to be real good. But before I do that, I want to put a quote up. Accept people as they are, but place them where they belong. I think that is a great quote for tonight's stream because, listen, I accept where people are. Shalom. Love everybody coming in. I accept people where they are, but everybody has their compartmentalization in my world, and it's the Most High's world. I just live in it, but in my own personal little realm of life, I know the people that love y'all. I know the people that are worldly. I know the people that I can't trust. I know the people that are just acquaintances. Everybody has a compartmentalized place in my life, and that way I know where to meet people. Okay, because you got to meet people sometimes where they're at. Yeah, it is absolutely great quote. I agree with the comments. All right, guys. So with that said, and yeah, that's another thing. Kingdom Truther said lunar solar calendar all the way. Y'all, Father's creation calendar. Thank you. I've got to get more vigilant about shouting that out too, guys, right here. For those that want to follow the stream, then we're going to get right in this presentation. I promise. Is you can check this out. The stream, we start this roughly around 8 o'clock Eastern time on Sabbaths and on new moon days at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And you can check out when those days are by using the World's Last Chance free calendar app that's available on the App Store for either Google or your Android device. Okay. And tomorrow's stream should be very interesting because I'm going to be discussing on the fly the new moon. People have a disconnect whether new moon is 1 day or 2 days. And I found quite a bit of evidence supporting that there's no such thing as a translation day. There is either 2 new moon days or 1, and it begins a new month. And then, of course, it's the count to Sabbath, count to Sabbath, count to Sabbath, count to Sabbath, and then reset again with the new moon. And I think that will be a really, really good presentation. And I look forward to that, but that will be tomorrow's conversation. All right. So with that said, let's get straight into the stream. The first evidence, and I think honestly it is one of the most powerful evidences. And guys, now I'm going to stay on focus nowadays. Because some of y'all's comments, it catches me and I go squirrel. I am going to be vigilant about staying focused anymore. If people donate, I'm going to definitely make sure to take time to read that. But otherwise, I'm going to try to read the comments either after the show or after the stream's over. All right. So with that said, DNA is one of the greatest things that we can use to understand life itself. I mean, our DNA tells everything about us. I mean, people can go and get their DNA screened and find out if they're susceptible to certain things, or their children could be susceptible to have certain problems. I mean, there's just so much. And furthermore, pharmaceutical drug sorcery companies capitalize on the fact that they have learned to read a lot into DNA. Furthermore, the past 2 years, everybody was being forced to take a snake bite and destroy their literal existence. That I will not delve too far on, because as much as I want this one to be a Hall of Fame video over on Odyssey, I do not want this one pulled, because I'd like to reach a lot of people that are not believers with this tonight. That's really my target audience with this tonight, and a refresher for believers. But our DNA, if you look deep enough at it, it has been divinely designed. It is not some Darwinianism thing where that we just came out of ooze. We listen, if I was confused on this matter, all right, I'm going to tell you straight up, I would lean toward that aliens or some other life form created me before I crawled out of an ooze or came from a monkey. All right. Now that's where I would be at. Like, if I had to go aside from a divine creator made me, okay, the Most High Yah, and they said, okay, what do you believe? Well, if I, outside of knowing that information and believing in the Most High, that would be my default to go to. It's not being an atheist or being, well, we just climbed out of some puddle in prehistoric time. Like, there is a very clear, brilliant design behind our DNA. Okay. And furthermore, before scientists and the so-called brilliant minds of today and stuff figured this stuff out, many millennia before that, the scripture plainly explains that in Leviticus 17:11, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. This is so interesting to me, is that, the scripture talks about, as of the days of Noah, so shall come the Son of Man be. And even in the days of Noah, there was DNA manipulation. I've actually done a whole stream on this a long time ago. I can't even begin to think if it was what the stream number was, the title. But I broke this down, bullet point through Jubilees and Yasher and Genesis and, help me out here, the book of Hanok, how that the watchers, the fallen messengers, fallen angels, was manipulating DNA and was messing with things. Like, folks, there's nothing new under the sun. But you got to understand that we live in a generation where people just think all of a sudden, well, not only have we all of a sudden caught brilliance, but we all of a sudden know everything. And that's not true. This wisdom has been very long with us from pretty much the beginning of creation. All right. But people need to understand that DNA is an absolute proof that we are divinely designed, because right now in the last days, people are starting to figure out just how important DNA is. And before long, people's going to be products of pharmaceutical drug sorcery companies, because just like Monsanto does with seeds and things like that of growing crops, they're going to have people as a darn product because that they've manipulated their DNA or put some kind of funky DNA in them. And now you're a product of the pharmaceutical drug sorcery company and you don't even have privacy and rights to your own body. It's going to get crazy out here, folks. And I think this is why, and these are in no particular order, but I think this is why this is the number one caveat I have to try to wake people up to look more into this and see that we are divinely designed. All right. Now this one here, and I'm going to have some adult conversations in here today, just in case young people are watching. But when a man and a woman procreate, all right, or they know each other, y'all follow me, I'm going to keep it clean in here. When that happens, if you have viewed this, they've showed this in the past. It was a scientific documentary I've seen, and that's why I like this image the best, is there is a flash of light when the sperm enters the egg and life begins at conception. And the absolute complexity of life that that is just so amazing, just so truly divinely designed. It is a proof that there is a creator and that we are divinely designed. I mean, this is a scientific fact. And what is so incredible to me is when you see that little flash, when you know that it has been fertilized and that life is beginning and, cells are multiplying immediately. It's just incredible, guys. And I do not understand the disconnect with people, because this one right here is such a proof to me that we have a creator. Like I'm telling you, like you cannot say we just came out of ooze at this point. You have to admit that either A, there is a divine creator, or B, some alien life has created us. And see, this is also why that when demons pose as aliens in the near future, a lot of people is going to get messed up because they didn't take the time to figure out that we are a creator. And absolutely, I just happened to notice this, and I'm going squirrel for a second. If man comes from monkeys, why are they still here? Why are they still monkeys? And that's another thing. Evolution, pretty much a baseline of evolution is if something evolves, the former version of itself is not supposed to be there, right? Take socialism. Socialism evolves into poverty, and then you don't have socialism anymore. That's why socialism doesn't last. And I shouldn't laugh at that because so many people suffering from socialism. But I mean, socialism is a great experiment of evolution. See, because in evolution, there shouldn't be the previous species. So if we look in political species, then that means that anybody that practices socialism eventually will fall into poverty. And then when you fall into poverty, you no longer practice socialism. See, there you go. I'm not charging anybody for this wisdom tonight, by the way. All right. So right here, scripture talks about this. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou comest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Man, I'll tell you what. It is just unreal, the hard-hitting evidential facts that have been in the scripture. And we're talking millennia, guys. This stuff has been with us for millennia. And, people still to this day, idiots want to argue if we, came from monkeys or ooze or whatever. And I wanted to hit some of the hardest hitters baseline out the gate tonight in my submission to the court of public opinion, that, to encourage people to further investigate the book. Now, this is the one, this is probably my favorite, one of my favorite highlights of this whole scroll that I've got tonight, expose for everybody. This one here, flat earth, the firmament in particular, though, okay? This is the one I want to focus in on, is the firmament in particular. All right, okay? Many people that used to be atheists come to the knowledge of the flat earth, geostationary flat earth under a firmament dome with waters above, waters below, and they become believers. They pick up the book and they become believers. Now, there's so-called Christians and even people in Torah community that'll argue and say, oh, it's of Satan or blah, 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 if you believe flat earth and all. And I've seen it. And what is so embarrassing if you're a so-called Christian or if you're so-called in Torah, is when you slander a brother or sister for believing in a flat earth when they actually can present sound evidence. And I'll tell you this is why I went and scrolled back the pages of history and time for myself and pulled this one out of the annals of history, is that if you go on YouTube and you type in Go Fast 2014, your mind is going to get taken on a roller coaster ride because of a couple things. If you have the wisdom to put things together in your head, all right, is that number one, this is a amateur rocket launch. Okay, so these people that are launching this, it's a completely amateur thing that's going on. This is not NASA. This is not garbage from NASA. This is the real freaking deal. Okay, folks. Now the next thing is that when this goes up, it goes and goes and goes, and then it smacks the top of the dome and starts falling backwards. Then it goes into a spiral spin, and you see the sun and the moon at the same time. And people's like, well, so what? Sometimes you do see the sun and the moon at the same time. Yeah, but let's pump the brakes a minute. On a globe model, the moon was supposed to be down somewhere between like New Zealand, Australia at the time, and the sun was over like Nevada at the time. And so you shouldn't be able to see that on a globe model. And to further analyze that, all you have to do is the helicopter had a time signature on the helicopter when they were flying out to pick up the rocket, and you had the time signature to work with. So even a 30 minutes difference, you know, it's not going to matter. And yeah, that's a good point right there too. I literally seen that expose the other day on maps. They always make Africa way too small. Yeah, Europe, I think, can fit, or actually, I can't remember if it's Russia can fit into Africa like multiple times. It's madness. But anyway, long and short of that, staying on point, is the other thing with this is that if you look and you use like just very little brain matter, and you put two and two together, you're like, okay, so let me get this straight. Amateur people shot this up. The camera lens fisheye is wavy. And when it stops, you get a flat surface. Okay, so we're seeing a flat plane. We're seeing the two lights in the firmament dome above. They're not supposed to be visible on a globe model yet. Here they are. And then on top of that, this rocket goes and goes and goes and then finally hits something. There is percussion, and then it falls back. One of the absolutely most astounding videos I've ever seen. And it is crazy how that this video has just been copied and shared and copied and shared. It is one of the most powerful videos I've ever seen to argue for the flat earth. Furthermore, for a firmament dome, regardless. And it is one of the greatest proofs that we live in an enclosed system. This world has been divinely made. And we can't, you know, this whole thing with like Antarctica and not being able to go down there. You know, the great thing about it is we're getting to the point where people are figuring out that we're under a firmament dome. Because I was going to do a little expose where I had Operation High Jump and all these other operations where that they nuked the firmament, and then they sent Admiral Byrd down to Antarctica, and then they done Operation Deep Freeze, and just all these operations where slowly the governments of the world figured out. They're like, oh, okay, there is a firmament dome. We are in an enclosed system. We can't nuke it and get out like Nimrod was trying to do and go up through the Tower of Babel and just all this stuff. You know, it's just unreal how that all this stuff, you know, people, the governments of the world were figuring this out, and then they were trying to get out of this thing. And, you know, Scripture talks about it right here. And Elohim made the firmament, divide the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so, hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass. And the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. He set the earth on its foundations so that it should never be moved. Another one I think is Amos, that literally talks about the vaulted dome. I believe is the exact context of how that reads, especially if you read it in the American Standard Version Bible. All right. And then moving forward, you know, just a couple notes on this in particular is that Captain Cook, you know, in his writings, if you look at it, he didn't find no inlet, outlet, or passage around the ring, which is Antarctica, which is the outer continent that encircles this disk. Yeah, the flight patterns say it all too. Absolutely, guys. That emergency flight that had to land in Alaska that was coming across, like that one was another one. It's like, why in the world would, if we were on a globe, we would just be able to go right over to it, supposedly. But if you actually look at it on a azimuthal equidistant map, that was the best place to land in an emergency, was in Alaska for that lady, and all this stuff. But Admiral Byrd, this is a clip from the video where that he gave an interview talking about that and one particular point in Antarctica, that the depth of it was as deep as North America. You know, from I believe he said the top of North America down to the bottom of Texas or something. Yeah, but that's the problem right there, is we should not keep our opinions to self on these matters anymore, because everybody else is going to have their opinion and they're going to try to cram it down our throat. And so my thing is, I don't care about people's opinion, but I will always meet them with facts. Like if I don't want your CGI stupid pictures of NASA with a satellite in space. I want the actual picture of the satellite, because I can actually show you a rocket that went up and hit the firmament dome. But I'm always seeing this footage from NASA where they're up here in orbit or whatever, but they can't just freaking spin around with taxpayer funded money and take a picture of the sun. But I can always see that they're always aiming it toward Earth. Like, it's just madness, guys. And that's why I bring this stuff out. Now, this one, I had to do it just to be that guy, is we live in a time where people are so confused about genders. I've actually lost count of how many so-called genders there is. But just for anybody confused, there's male, which would be the person you're viewing on the left, and female symbol is the one on the right. Okay, just so anybody's confused while watching this. And it is one of the greatest proofs to me that we are divinely designed, okay? Because if you read in the scripture right here, and he answered and said to them, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Like, it only works. It only works one way, guys. You know, where I would say with this too, is that, and I've got another point to make about chromosomes and things like that as well, that kind of segues from this, but I've got a couple things I want to touch on along the way to it. But what is so troubling to me right now is, especially with all the so-called wisdom and knowledge that everybody's gathering in these current generation and all that, is that why we have to have a conversation now in our enlightened, technologically advanced generation, that people have to be defined as this or that. Like, if you are confused, you can go to the restroom, do a physical body check on your anatomy, and come out either knowing you're A or B. It's really cut and dry. And I think that one of the things with these last days that we're living in is you need confusion at every level. And let me explain what I mean. Years ago, the family element was the most powerful thing you could have. A husband and a wife that was on the same page could raise healthy, fully autonomous children. You know, that is mindful of where their life is headed and knows the right thing to do. But if you can destroy the family element, okay, if you can take away the rights of the family, if you can separate the father from his children, then you can start destroying the minds of the children. And then you take in another notch, is with all the fluoride in the water and the GMOs in the food and everything else, then you can emasculate men. You know, the thing is after that point, you confuse them down so far, then you've got people confused as to even what gender they are. So these people are so confused, they're never going to be nothing productive for society. You know, it is just, it's unreal. But, okay, some of the comments here, wow. Anyway, real quickly, guys, I'm going to take a pause, and I'm going to shout out some people that are affiliates and support the channel, and then we will continue on in the stream. Guys, if you've not checked out Mirror Safety, links in the video description below. They have some amazing protective gear, civilian level equipment, but military grade. All right. And it goes all the way down to if you need equipment to protect toddlers and infants. We're talking biological, chemical, nuclear. I mean, this is some serious tech gear for that kind of thing. All right. Next up is Faraday Defense, guys. If you haven't checked them out, I've done review in the past. The EMP shielding bags, man, some of that stuff, it is really cool stuff, and it does block signal. All right. So if you're needing to protect your equipment, definitely something worthy to purchase and have. All right. Now, next up, I'm going to zoom down here a little bit, but I'm also going to show you, it's on the side screen here if you haven't seen it. Guys, for those that's followed me for years now, I've been getting a battle box since, I think, the second mission. The only battle box I've ever missed, I think, was mission 1. And right now, if you use my code 7Trumpets, you can get 15% off your first box through them, guys. Make sure to check them out. It's great gear, and it's always like just so random. And over the years, some of the gear that I've got, I've helped other people out, gave it to family, friends, etc. And it is amazing how just some of the stuff you get, you would never even think about getting that yourself. And that's just real great help for your preps. Next up, guys, if you haven't checked out on your phone, you can mine Pi. Now, they're finally migrating to the main wallet. When this gets listed on a lot of exchanges and stuff, there's going to be an opportunity to cash that in, where you can be mining on your phone in the background, using it for crypto, and cash that out and get you some preps later down the road. The link for that is in the video description below. If you want to mine Pi, make sure to use my code too. Helps me out boosting my mining rate. All right. And last shout out is, guys, if you haven't checked out KingdomMindedCo, I need to update the slides on this from my wife's site. She's had a bunch of sales. I appreciate you guys so much for buying from her and supporting her. It's on Etsy. Links in the video description below. Got a ton of different designs, color tees now. I can't think, like the bleach style thing. I know that's getting to be a big thing. A lot of people like, especially ladies. And then there's a whole section over there too, guys, with stuff that I've helped design, and some of the things, designs I like that my wife's made. This one, 100% non-poison shirt, for those that's against the snake bite, you can check that out over there as well. And lastly, shout out is to make sure, go over, check us out on Odyssey. Guys, content's over there as well. All right. And one last note, if anybody's looking to get them a tiny house, if you want to check that out at IncredibleTinyHomes.com, and you want to also reach out to me at 7trumpetsprepper@gmail.com. If you use my code 0072, you can get you a tiny house over there in a credit box for $500 discount off of the $20,000 price. So you can get that for $19,500. And I'll also get $500 for referring you. So that helps me out and it helps you guys out. And I appreciate the folks that's already started buying them. I already got one sold the other day, thanks to a gentleman. And then also hopefully going to have 2 more sold here the next week. So I'm excited about that. So guys, check them out at IncredibleTinyHomes.com. Use code 0072 and you can get you a discount off your credit box. Let me catch up the comments here for a second. Let's see. All right, guys. I used to use my old cell phones, mine Pi all day. Hey, that's cool, man. All right, guys. So back on point. Moving forward. Now, something that's interesting to me is many people may not know this quote from Charles Darwin, but in The Origin of the Species, if you've ever read some of his work and everything, he says, if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down, but I can find no such case. In Darwin's day, he didn't have the technological advancements that we have now to prove his theory wrong, in my personal humble opinion. But today, we can prove him resoundingly wrong. But, the social justice warriors and the liberal colleges and institutions will push his stuff as doctrine, and it is madness. And, at the end of the day, what he had to say pretty much is just, it falls flat. And, I don't know what to tell everybody to wake them up other than if you take the time and pay attention and look at the works of people of old that get touted as fact today. They actually question their own work back in the day. All right. And I can actually respect that on a certain level. But at the back end of that, people tout this as truth when it's nothing but absolute lies. All right. So enough on Darwin. I'm not giving him no more limelight. Another thing that to me is divine proof of a creator, and also it kind of segues back to the firmament, is that if you take white light right? And you send that through a glass prism, all right? And no, we're not getting into rock and roll here, all right? I'm just using this as an example, because I know some people's like, oh yeah, rock and roll. But the white light going through that, it breaks out. And another thing I've noticed is the alphabet community. I'll just use it as that. And the people that practice things that would be considered abomination in the scripture like to use these colors to support their community. And I think they only have 6 colors that they use. But yet the rainbow actually has 7 colors, which is of great interest to me. But nevertheless, it is a proof that regardless how you feel about science, there's like a bazillion things you can go through to prove that, you know, that there was a divine hand in it and the creator divinely designed this. But this one is of great interest to them, is that if you look at when it rains in the sky, okay, and this is going to segue into another point I'm going to make about Noah's flood, the flood during Noah's time, is that when the light is shown after the rain, right, and then you have the light reflecting inside this firmament dome, we have a rainbow effect. And you notice it's a bow. When light's cast through a prism, you see how it shoots out, but yet the rainbow is inside the dome. Interesting. Very interesting. So we do live in an enclosed environment. Are y'all following with me? All right. And scripture talks about this. It says, Job 38:24, by what way is the light parted? So even in Job's day, it was discussed that light is parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth. I mean, just absolutely incredible that this stuff, and this is just little caveats I've pulled for you here and there. All right. I mean, guys, the scripture is full of truths that there is a divine creation. This one to me, though, was a great intrigue. I love science when it's used in the right capacity, because I've always loved technology. I mean, I've done off-grid installations for people and give people the power to make their own power to live off-grid all the time, and harvest rainwater and pump it in, and just all sorts of stuff over the years. But all in all, when you use science properly within its right compartmentalization, it's, to me, just a further empowerment and a reminder of the great sovereign creator. All right, but as we look at this, air has weight, right? That's the search that you should type in. Well, air has no weight when it is free to move from one place to another, but it contains weight when it is filled inside any container, because the air inside a container compresses by the walls of balloons, which gives weight to the air inside the balloon. Pause. If you look back, I think it was like 2017-ish, there was a flight that they went down to Antarctica, and the late Rob Skiba, before he passed away, brought this information out too. I think I even talked about it in a video or two in the past, is that there was the Orthodox church leader was taken down there to do some kind of rite at the one church that's in Antarctica. And they took some kind of artifact that was found in the Middle East too. Well, on the flight down, though, one of the canopies blew on the aircraft because of the pressure. So the air pressure that's at the edges of the dome, obviously there's quite a bit of pressure. And this is the same principle being applied right here with this balloon. All right. This is what we're talking about with a balloon too. So once again, we're talking about an enclosed environment, and I'm hammering this hard because if you're an atheist out there and you're listening to me, the minute you start researching flat earth and search flat earth Bible verses, 200 Bible verses, flat earth proof or something like that, I should have put that screen cap up too. You will become a believer. Just hang in there. All right. Well, Job 28:24, for he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven to make the weight for the winds, and he weigheth the waters by measure. I mean, guys, it is in there. If you're willing to search for it, these proofs are in there. Now, this one gets really cool. All right. Now, when you look, it says, oh, and I'm sorry, I should have brought this up. Like, if you'll bring this up about, what was the search tab on Wikipedia, guys? Please bear with me a second. If you will search, I think the Google search I did on this to get the exact layout that I wanted was all humans have same ancestor. And this should throw you back to this back tab on Wikipedia. Okay. Anyway, here we go. The identical ancestors point for Homo sapiens has been the subject of debate. In 2004, Rode, Olson, and Chang showed through simulations the identical ancestors point for all humans is surprisingly recent, on the order of 5,000 to 15,000 years ago. Now, I'm going to pause. I love how they throw all these long numbers in there, because let's get straight. We're about 6,000 years Earth, right? We're in a young Earth. I am one of those young Earthers, okay? Ralph and Coop, considering the European population and working from genetics, came to similar conclusions for the recent common ancestry of Europeans. All living people share exactly the same set of ancestors from this point back, all the way to the very first single-celled organism. I'm just going to just leave that one alone. I'm not even getting into that. However, people will vary widely in how much ancestry and genes they inherit from each ancestor, which will cause them to have a very different genotypes and phenotypes. All right. Now, interesting enough that if you look, and especially in genetics, and, people actually take the story of Adam and Eve for what it is. And please note, I put melanated people in there because the first peoples were melanated. And then I am a strong believer that Japheth received the gene from Noah, where he was albino. That's why we have the white people today. And then we have Hamites and Shemites and Japheth, people from Japheth. All right. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But I just want everybody to understand I am being honest to the best of my ability here, okay, and trying to represent things true. All right. Now, what we need to understand is man was created from the dust of the earth. We're going to get in that scripture subset in a minute. But what we need to take away from this, all right, is that regardless if you're like, well, I don't believe this or I don't believe that. All right. One thing we know is that we were divinely designed. The DNA sequencing that we can understand today, even a simple, I'm an electrician, I'm not a doctor, and I can look at DNA and be like, wow, this is really high tech. This is really cool. I can look at this coding long enough, compare it to other things, and figure out, wow, well, that means that you have diabetes. Oh, well, you'll be 6'5". Oh, well, you'll be blue eyes. You can start figuring this stuff out in this coding, right? So that means that there was some very serious, detailed information put into this. This is just not goop smashed together to make something, right? So with that said, now I go a step further and figure out that every single living person goes all the way back to a single man and woman. Are y'all following with me? Because there's a book that told me this is how it happened. And, we look back at this and start to figure out that, wow, okay, the book of Genesis explains that man was made from the dust of the earth. The Most High blew the Ruach into the man, breath of life, and he became a living being. And then his rib was taken out, and a woman, female, was made. And then everybody came from these two. Very interesting. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. It's just absolutely yeah, and this is a great point was made right here. I have to pause and respect this point somebody made. The ancients used the lunar calendar, not the Catholic calendar. The Ethiopians still use the day. Absolutely. That's why I use it. It's why I'm not at work when it's Sabbath. I know people look at me sideways. Really don't care. Anyway, next up, here is a great one. I think this one's absolutely paramount, is Noah's flood. The Great Deluge is discussed in so many cultures. We can just go on and on and on. What is it? From the Epic of Gilgamesh, Noah, the Sumerian tablets. Oh my goodness. It's unreal, guys, how much we can go in on this. But this is what's important. Throughout the world, there is so much evidence that there is been a flood of something. Hold on just a second. Somebody maybe I got to respond to this, guys. I got to pause for a second. 7 trumpets. So since you believe the Bible is infallible word of Elohim, so you believe, I'm just going to say Messiah because I don't use that no more because I know that is just from Roman Catholicism. When he called the ardent followers of Judaism a den of vipers and children of Satan. All right, here's the thing, guys. Keeping the Torah and following Judaism is two different things. Loving the Most High and keeping his commandments, there is a thin line there, okay? You know, if anybody says don't keep the commandments, all right, they are obviously not serving the kingdom. That is because I love the Most High, because I have faith in Messiah, I want to keep the commandments. All right. So moving forward, the great deluge that took place. All right. Things that need to be understood from that is that, like, people's like, well, there was the Jurassic and Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. No, I'm just, you know, there's all this crazy crustacean period and Krusty Krab period and all this junk, right? And I'm just literally making fun of science right now. And I'm sorry, but I just can't handle some of this. There's this tree, right? And I wish I had the picture of it to put in the video right now and for the stream tonight. But there's this huge tree that's been petrified, right? It has all these so-called sedimentary layers. So this tree apparently was during the Cretaceous period and the Jurassic period and the Jurassic period, but yet it's sticking up through all of it. It's so funny. Thing is if you look at it in great detail, something is not right. That obviously there was a massive flood. All right. And all this is getting stacked up. All these things are stacked up. Right. Anyway, if you look and consider this, Ron White, which I have great respect for his archaeological work, you can find where that he found that the ark rested. All right. And that was documented proof and has been documented proof for a long time, and done research of it. You can find where the pillars still have Phoenician writing, I believe it is, on the shores, both sides of the Red Sea, as a memorial and pillar that I believe it was Solomon put up. And it's recorded in the scripture that Solomon put them up. Ron White found those as well. All right. And of the Red Sea crossing memorial. Like, there is, when people want to say, well, you know what, let's just scratch all the stuff I've already talked about. Okay, well, then let's just go and, like, literally physically touch something. There's the resting place where the ark rested. Here is the pillars of a memorial of the Red Sea crossing. Like, guys, I can go in on this with somebody. Like I'm so grateful that I've had enough time to live. The Most High has granted me enough time that I have lived to see and understand and know that there is archaeological proof of ancient Israel. And there is proof that the scripture is true. And I mean, this stuff's trying to be covered up, destroyed, forgotten. But I mean, there it is. All right. And you can find a lot of this too at arkdiscovery.com. My good brother of mine, Brother Kevin, he loves to use this as a teachable thing to win people for the kingdom. I think it's a wonderful thing. And anyway, that right there is very cool that Ron White was at the Gatlinburg, Tennessee Museum. That is literally just up the road from my house. It's really cool. I would have loved to met the man. I went and met Richard Reeves, filmed down there with him in the past, but I never had the opportunity to meet Ron White. He passed away. Anyway, now another thing that's interesting to me, okay, is when we talk about the here and now. Most people nowadays are squirrel. They're like, oh, left, right, forgot what you said immediately. But right now, the time that we're living in, where we're at right now, okay, is that you can see the Euphrates being dried up. And the scripture talks about that the Euphrates be dried up. And I believe I put the verse in here. I'm going to scroll over and right back. Yeah, okay. I want to make sure I put the scripture this one. But this one's so important, guys, because we are actually watching biblical prophecy playing out before our very eyes. Like right now, we're seeing stuff taking place that is precursors to the 7 trumpets of Revelation taking place. I think this is so phenomenal to watch this play out before our very eyes, because people's like, well, we ain't living in the last days or blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, the literal word of Yah says that the Euphrates is going to dry up. And you turn on the freaking news and it says the Euphrates River is drying up. You have to be a special kind of stupid at that point for that not to register one for one. All right. And Not to mention, we're going to see all these tsunami waves from earthquakes and the trumpets taking place. And I've got all that to go into in a second. But I'm just, and Second Ezra chapter 16, what are you, Babylon, Asia? What are you, Egypt and Damascus? Put on haircloth, sackcloth, away, sons and daughters, because your destruction's not at hand. All right, you're going to have Egypt. You're going to have modern day Iraq. You're going to have, let's see, who all we were talking about there? Persia, which is modern day Iran, and Damascus, Syria. It's supposed to be a desolation. These four countries are absolutely supposed to be a desolation. All right. And when you consider upon these matters, that means that where we're at currently in the timeline of the history of humanity, we are on the threshold of the brink. Because before Elder Joe passed away, Sabbaths anymore, I turn off my phone. I sit down, I just try to clear my head. And then, of course, I'll put my notes together and stuff for these streams. And I'll really think on matters and where we're at. And like, this is half the day I'll sleep sometimes anymore because I just work so much. And it is just such a refresh for me because it makes me actually sit down and focus on this and think about where we're headed. And it's always like a reminder each Sabbath, like, where are we at? Where are we at? And the Euphrates right now is something people really should be thinking about because the scripture gave a clear, definitive marker that this would make way for the kings of the east. All right. I'm going to go to the scripture real quick, but I want to come back and you actually stare at that dried up river. All right. Revelation 16:12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. All right. We are watching biblical prophecy taking place. And when we see Second Ezra chapter 16 take place, something very interesting is that further down in chapter 16, it talks about this is the beginning of sorrows. All right. So when we see the Middle East laid waste, we see the river Euphrates drying up, we should be on high alert right now, from now on, getting our families and homes prepared for what's to come, hearts and minds prepared. Any sin we got left in our life, try to delete it. Try to do the right thing, clean our lives up, because we are watching the final curtain call start to get going. All right. Now, next up, moving past this, is the last thing I'd like to point out on this. And let me check my slide. Okay. Yeah. This is the last point I have, is that for those that cannot disconnect from all the lies they're being fed from the news, the media, politicians, and all that stuff, if you do not listen to anything else I've said in this presentation, the number one thing I would encourage you tonight at this point, if nothing else reached you, is this. When you see a third of the stars fall out of the literal sky and burn up a third of the green grass and trees in the very near future, I really believe within this decade, when you see that go down, all right, wake up. The only problem is at that point, you don't probably have no time at all left to prepare. All right. And you're just going to be in survival mode. When you see a third of the sea become blood and a third of the ships and the sea life destroyed because probably a mega tsunami wiped it all off and most of the sea coast, you're going to be in a bad spot. When you see a third of the waters turn bitter, all right, and they're poison, you're going to be in a bad spot. When you see a third of the sun, moon, and stars don't even shine and the lights get turned off up top, you're going to be in a bad spot. Do I need to keep going down like and explain you're in a bad spot? Then the last three are described as woes. And you're going to see demonic things. You're going to see a third of humanity killed off. I mean, guys, it is going to get clean wild out here. All right. And if you haven't watched it in the past, I have a series called Understanding the Seven Trumpets of Revelation series it says Understanding the Seven Trumpets of Revelation. And it's a multi-part series. And I really encourage everyone to watch that and check that out. Let me pause right here. Somebody said, but you were so sure lightning struck the Godstones. For anybody that would be questioning me on that, I actually did a full stream about that, investigating that. And I actually went down there to the Godstones and investigated that on spot. So for those that would mock me for that, I actually did take the time to go investigate that. And in the end, I told everyone that it did look to me like that they were physically destroyed by somebody. And my final assessment on that was that it was probably tannerite because there wasn't any black markings on the ground. So Crimson Sky, I just want to make sure and call you out on the carpet on that too, is if you didn't see that video, I'm going to grace you the fact that you probably didn't see the live stream I did or the video where I actually went physically out there. But that was the final assessment I made that. And here's the thing. I, at this point, don't care if lightning hit it or somebody blew it up. I am so grateful it's gone. And secondly, within 12 hours, a so-called crime scene, okay, was wiped off the map. I went out there. I didn't see a single pebble on the ground. There was no more stand telling what the place was. There was no more cover over the so-called time capsule thing. It was wiped clean, okay? So I just want everybody to be clear. When I do discuss things like that on that matter and make a big deal about it, I actually got in my vehicle and went all the way down there and investigated that, okay? So just want to leave that where that, let that sleeping dog lie. All right. But anyway, glad it's gone. But guys, right here back on point is the Understand the Seven Trumpets of Revelation series. I really encourage you to go check that out. And you know, one good thing about that is compared to I just, you know, I got to be that guy and be petty sometimes. Is, you know, just like with the Godstone situation, I'll tell you this. We can say a lot of things, but whenever we see a third of the stars fall out of heaven and you ain't a believer, you're going to be screwed. All right. That's just straight up. And that's okay. That's cool. Absolutely. No worries. I like I said, I'm not being up. Now there's some people out here, I know how they are about stuff. Yeah. And I agree that it was tannerite for sure. And after enough of the security footage was out, the only thing that really troubles me about that, okay, the only thing that just leaves me hanging on the tannerite thing is that the ground seemed undisturbed. So I don't know if they like secured that when because I watched the footage and they ran out there and they actually stuck the bag. Guys, I'm going to pull this down for a second because I'm just going to, that's the stream for tonight, guys. I'm going to stay in the comments and chat it up for a minute. But while we're on the subject, the Godstones, when I actually went out there and checked that out, you see the guy run up, or the woman or man, I'm just going to leave it, whoever it is, run up, and it looks like they stuffed something there. But the thing is, the ground seemed undisturbed. Now, of course, the construction people could have, you know, moved the dirt or the gravel back and everything, but it really seemed for the most part undisturbed right there, which also troubles me. It's like, did somebody physically go around and pick up every last little pebble from there? And the reason I'm wondering of that is because if I could have just got one pebble, I could have actually had a lab analyze that to see if there was residual matter from tannerite. Okay, I'm just saying, like that. These are the thoughts going through my head after the fact. But whoever did that must have affixed that in some way to the side of that, because the ground just didn't seem like that it was, you know, the ground was disturbed. Peels. No, wait, what is this, Anthony? I wonder how those people felt when they seen those peels coming out of a time capsule. Laugh out loud. That's crazy. Now, from what I understood, there was no time capsule. The news reported that people went out there the following day and that there was nothing there. So people, Fixed Flat Earth, just wrote what came from the time capsule. I thought it was empty. I thought there wasn't nothing there. The news article that I read said that they dug the very next day. The townspeople went out there and there was nothing there. And I went out there and the ground was covered back over, and something apparently they had dug down into there, but they said they got down to like 6 feet down to the bedrock or whatever, the clay dirt, and there was nothing there. So somebody help me out. Please bring me up to speed on this, because I would sure love to know if something was found and that was covered up too. Anyways, guys, when it comes to science, I've noticed that most people treat science as a religion anymore. And it's almost like that they want to believe it so badly in the lies that they will do anything to defend it. And it's really sad anymore. And yeah, there was lightning in the area that night, guys. It was. But now when the video came out, you could see the footage of a vehicle driving off. You could see the footage of somebody running up and planting an explosive device. there was a lot come out after the fact, but it was really weird that the way that the blast was and the lens flare on the thing, it looked like lightning hit at first. And somebody said, yeah, what I saw, there was no time capsule that it was removed because they didn't want that in to get out if something happened. That's interesting. If anybody's got news articles or links on that, I would love to see it, because the news that I seen published showed nothing. All right. Well, guys, I hope this stream, you have enjoyed it. Tomorrow, make sure to pop in at 12. I'm going to be discussing the second new moon, or 2 new moons or translation day. That's going to be the conversation topic. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation to chop it up, because many people get so confused on that, and a lot of people that are SAT day keepers will bash people that keep the lunisolar scriptural biblical calendar. Be like, well, see, you always have a day missing at the end of the month. But it's like, does that day missing, or does it have a purpose? And I think there's an answer in the scripture, and I'd like to present that information with you tomorrow. So guys, with that said, as always, until we see you again here on Seven Trumpets Prepper channel and on the Hard Truth Show, I hope the Most High Yah baruch you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends, in Yahushua name.